So anyone that's been prepping for a while understands, because of trial and error, what makes a good bug out bag. But I still see some of these mistakes that I'm going to be talking about today, time and time again, and not just from the beginning preppers. To some people, it's more of a conversation piece, I suppose, rather than a survival item. Sort of like when you are restoring an old car, right? It sits in the garage, you drive it a couple times a year, maybe a mile or two, you put it back in the garage and polish everything up and wait for your friends to come over so you can show them your nice shiny car. That's how some people treat their bug out bags. So the right way to do it, though, is to treat it as a survival item, because that's the whole reason you're putting this together. While we all take pride in our bug out bag setups, and there is some aspect of the show and tell part to it, because we are proud of what we put together, going the coolest route or packed to the gills route is not going to do you any favors. The goal should be having something that's going to get you through a tough situation, not show and tell. Like I said, most of us sort of like that aspect of it. Hey, see how what do you think about my setup? What would you do different, and all those things. But having it strictly for that purpose, packed with everything, you open it up just so you can show all your friends and neighbors how you've got one of every survival supply ever mentioned on the internet, that's not the right way to go about this. So as I go through these 7 mistakes people make about bug out bags, for those of you that have been doing this for a while, go through this and see how many you actually get right. My thought is you're going to have most of them right, but you never know. There may be 1 or 2 in there, or you may find an opportunity to sort of change your strategy and rethink your bug out bag. We do that all the time. But with that, let's go ahead and get into these 7 mistakes people make about bug out bags. All right, so the first mistake a lot of people make about bug out bags is overpacking. Too much weight, right? You need to understand exactly how much weight you're going to be able to carry. Otherwise, you're just going to be tossing stuff. If you are in a bug out situation, you're going to be tossing stuff to make everything lighter. As preppers, those of us that have been doing this for a while, we understand that there's some give and take with this stuff. The things that are super important, the things that would be nice to have, but is it worth the wait? It's sort of like the saying, watch your pennies and the dollars take care of themselves. Every little thing you add into your bug out bag makes it just a little bit heavier. So even if something is just a couple ounces or a few ounces, those added up together are going to increase the weight of that bug out bag more than we really think. So making sure we're not overpacking, making sure that we're getting the right supplies in there, we're getting the right weight, because it does no good to pack all of these different supplies that you think you might need. But if you are in a bug out situation, like I said, you're just tossing stuff out of your bag and leaving a trail of breadcrumbs for everybody with all these cool survival supplies littering the road. All right, so the second mistake I have here is a lot of people don't consider the weight of their bug out bag. And this sort of goes into what I was talking about before, but more so on your ability and your willingness to carry the amount of weight. And this is different for everyone.
What is he doing? What is he doing?
I personally try to keep mine around 30, 35 pounds, because I know that regardless of how long I need to have that on my back, it's going to remain there, and everything that's in it is going to stay in there. If it's too heavy, like I was talking about earlier, you're going to be throwing stuff out. You're going to be leaving a breadcrumb trail, or you're going to be sitting on the side of the road taking a break every 15 minutes or so, trying to catch your breath. So make sure it's the correct weight, the weight that you are going to be able to carry. Now, that means you need to make some decisions beforehand on what you can take, what you can't take, maybe increase your physical ability, your endurance, go out for walks with your bug out bag on, and then eventually you'll be able to carry more and more, and you'll get used to the fact of having that big, 35 pounds or whatever it is on your back. All right, so number 3 here, and this is a big one. This is not having a plan. And I think a lot of people put their bug out bag together, but don't really think about what they would do in certain situations. If you are at work, if you're at school, if you're at home, where would you go in those certain situations? Do you have an actual bug out location that you could get to? Because if you don't, all you're doing is you're becoming a refugee, basically. You're on the road, you don't know where you're going. Maybe you find a spot, maybe you don't. So always try to have a plan when it comes to your bug out bag. Now, it could be your bug out location, you're going to drive there. So the bug out bag just goes in the back seat of your truck, but you may have to carry that at some point as well. So always have a plan for your bug out bag, where you're going, from one location to the other. What's the route? What are the challenges in the way? What's the season? All of these different factors play into having a plan for a bug out situation. So the fourth mistake that people make is not checking their gear, not using their gear, not understanding how everything works. This goes for testing, your bug out bag, how that's going to work on your back after a couple of miles. It goes for the supplies you have in it. Again, why I don't recommend getting the pre-made kits, because maybe you get that pre-made kit and you just put it in the corner. It's got everything I need. I'm good to go if a situation arises where I need to use that. Maybe you don't understand how the water filter works, or how to get the external battery on the solar charger, or how a ham radio functions. That's a big one. A lot of people, think you can just get one of these ham radios or a walkie-talkie and you're good to go. Breaker 19, right?
About a few miles past that chicken coop around yardstick 324, you got a city kitty taking pictures.
It doesn't quite work like that. So understand how all of these supplies work in your bug out bag. Fire is another one. Using a Bic lighter, super easy, right? But using a ferro rod or other methods to get a fire started, those are a little bit more difficult. Again, the skills play into this as well, but make sure you understand how to utilize all the supplies in your bag. Make sure the bag itself, what it's going to be like carrying that bag for a couple miles, not just around the block, but actually for a longer duration of time. See how you are going to react to that. So making sure you understand all of the supplies in the bag is super important. One of the most important parts of it, because if you don't really know how to use it, you could probably learn on the fly, but that's going to take up valuable time. And that's in a situation like that, that's not where you want to be, going to school on some of this stuff. You have time to learn that now. So go ahead and learn that now while you have the chance to do it. And number 5 here, I sort of alluded to a second ago, was the weather. The weather plays a factor in how you set up your bug out bag and how you organize things and how you rotate things out depending on the seasons. Here in Colorado, it's all over the place. Down in Florida, maybe it doesn't change too much. Or Arizona, maybe it gets a little cooler, but it doesn't really get cold. And you're not looking at a foot or two of snow. Out here, you just don't know from one day to the next. So always pay attention to that. Make sure to rotate your bug out bag. Pay attention to what's in it, the types of clothes that are in it, all of those things. The weather plays a huge factor in the supplies that you have in your bag. In the wintertime or a rainy season, it may be harder to get a fire started. So you need to think about that. What sort of supplies do I have in there that I can actually get something that will stay lit long enough and dry the wood out, and learn about different techniques that will help you not have to carry a bunch of stuff. Say, if the wood is all wet, learn different techniques about how to get a fire lit with wet wood, rather than having to, take a bunch of tinder or something with you in your bug out bag. A little ridiculous, but you get my point. The more you learn about these different things, the less you have to carry. And the 6th mistake that a lot of people make here is not updating their bag regularly. It just they put their bug out bag together and it just kind of sits there, and they don't think about it after that, because there's only 500,000 things you have to do when it comes to preparedness. So it just sits there and they like they check it off the list. I've got my bug out bag done. I'm good to go. But it needs to be updated regularly. The things in it need to be checked and make sure that they're not expired. You've got a bunch of, there's so many different things in a bug out bag that you need to make sure. Anything that takes batteries, anything that's rechargeable, anything that could expire. All of these different things need to be checked on a regular basis. And I suggest, at least twice a year. Out here in Colorado, it's a little bit more than that because of the changing seasons. but at the very least twice a year, because some of these lithium ion batteries, they're great. You don't have to carry a bunch of batteries around with you, and they just need to be recharged, but they do drain over time. So if you don't check it for a year and a half, and you do find yourself in a bug out situation, it's kind of a crapshoot of whether that is going to have any charge in it, or if it's going to have, half of the charge that it actually needs. So always check the stuff in your bug out bag. Always look at the expiration dates on stuff, medical supplies, everything in your bag. Just make sure and go through it. Make sure it's still the right supplies for the situation. If maybe your situation has changed or your ideas have changed, make sure you still have the correct stuff in there. And the seventh mistake a lot of people make is not considering your personal needs. And this is one where, say somebody goes and buys a pre-made bug out bag, and there's a couple places, I suppose, that make decent ones. I wouldn't suggest that route whatsoever, because if you're putting a bug out bag together, you're learning about the important aspects of preparedness. So, and you get to personalize it a little bit. But don't forget about those things that you're going to need that may not be on everybody's lists online, right? The eyeglasses are a great example of this. Cords for all the things that you may need to charge, and make sure you have a way to charge those as well. Medications, personal hygiene things like tampons for the ladies, and for men, this is not for you. No tampons and bullet wounds. But the different things that you would need on a personal level, that given your environment, given your situation, your health, all those things, you need to personalize your bug out bag to fit your needs. And this also goes to your skill level, like I talked about a little bit earlier. The more you know about certain subjects, the less you will have to carry. So if you are really good in one area, maybe you can get by with a couple different supplies rather than having to go with something that's going to do the whole job for you. So your skills, your health, all of those things play into your bug out bag and what is going to be included in this. So with that, if you set up your bug out bag right, it's going to be far different than mine or somebody else's. Everyone is individual. They have their individual bug out bag. They have their individual needs. Now, there are some core supplies that are going to be in every single bug out bag, right? The 6 areas of preparedness: food, water, shelter, security, sanitation, and first aid. You need to have those covered, and then from that point on, then you sort of individualize it. How much sleeping gear do you want? That's going to be different for depending. Some people barely have any at all. Some people want to be super comfortable at night. Those are decisions that you have to make on your own. So everyone's going to have a different setup, which is cool. And that goes to what I was talking about earlier as well with the show and tell aspect of it, because we like to all get tips from other people and, hey, how do you do this? How do you do that? That's how we learn. That's how we grow. And that's how we start to customize our bug out bag to fit our needs. So, but with that, I think I'm done here today. Like I said, if you have any comments, anything you want to add, make sure and leave them in the comments below. If you like this video, make sure and hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. But I am done here today. I'm going to go mess around with my bug out bag. So take care and prepare, everyone. We will talk to you all later.